Welcome to the Double Dribble podcast, emergency podcast. Sound the alarms, the whole blaring things. We don't have that type of budget yet on the RealGM network, so we don't have any sound effects. But there we go. Thank you, Jared. There we go. That's Jared Dubin, my partner, colleague. I'm gonna rush through the intros because you guys, we literally recorded a podcast like 6 hours ago. So we're now recording another one. I was quite literally packing up the car for the move. I'm even in my moving shirt, ready to get, kind of nasty and moving things around. And I mean, Jared, massive trade in the NBA.
Yeah, Santi Aldama going to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for a protected 2030 first-round pick from the Golden State Warriors. No, sorry.
You messed it up.
You messed trade, folks.
We're talking Jaylen Brown. We're going to work. It's Jared, tell them the real trade. Jaylen Brown going to Philly for Paul George, but what are all the details?
Jaylen Brown to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George, a 2028 first-round pick that could turn into a swap due to complicated protections, a 2031 first-round pick, I believe, and then a 2030 second-round pick, most favorable of Washington, Portland, and Phoenix, and a 2028 second-round pick, most favorable of Golden State, Oklahoma City, and Milwaukee. My God. I mean, I am sitting here. It's been maybe an hour, less than an hour since the reporting of this trade. I am sitting here in absolute disbelief.
I kind of, my first reaction is like, so first off, I was shocked. And your first reaction was this Shams was hacked.
Yeah.
Which was your first reaction to me on the text message.
In fairness, stunned. That was also my first reaction when Shams reported the Luka Doncic trade.
Well, that was everybody with the Luka trade. That was everybody with that one. But
I remember at the time I even tweeted like, people relax. Shams got hacked. Like nothing's happening here. Little did I know.
I gotta say, like, just looking back at it, do you think Boston goes, maybe we should have traded Hugo Gonzalez for Giannis? Because, like, you just think about it this way, it's you passed up on Giannis to basically trade for Paul George, who has one less year on his deal than Jaylen Brown. Hooray.
Yeah, you're not saving that much money over the next couple of years, though. It's like a couple $1 million.
It's. I think you're really. This goes to a couple of things here, and I think the starting point is like, and I'm going to pat myself on the back here. This goes back to, I think Jaylen Brown was tired of being put in trade rumors.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of like, just mend fences. You were included in the trade for Giannis. Like, you should be okay with that. It's, people talking about like, it's just, I just don't think that was ever possible. And I think Boston knew that. And I think that's why
I was wrong. I'll throw it out there before you continue. I was wrong.
You weren't alone. A lot of people were just like mend fences, but I kind of felt this one felt different than all the other times where it felt like this was, a little bit more, there was a little bit more heat on it from Brown's side of it. And I just think, what you're looking at is just, he had to have just said, I'm done, guys. Like, I'm coming off this great season. I was phenomenal for you. I carried this team. We overachieved. Yes, we flamed out in the playoffs, but still, the fact we got there was pretty amazing. And now you guys want to trade me. Well, you know what? I'm out. Like, get me, I'm out of here. And I think for Boston, I think they ran out of suitors pretty quickly. I think for a while it seemed like Portland was really in it, and that kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. In the long run, I think, with the hassling of like whether they would send Donovan Kling in or not to Boston was sort of what I perceive to be the sticking point. I think you have a lot of things where it's just like, I don't know where Jaylen Brown was going to end up. Like, we talked Atlanta, We had mentioned New Orleans. I don't know if we had any other. There was, rumored stuff of Jalen Duren sign and trade with Brown going to Detroit. Like there was all sorts of kind of stuff in the air. Never once did Philly enter the equation for me.
No.
Not once. Like I don't even have like it's not even like a draft asset haul that the Celtics are getting where I'm like, okay, well, they're getting these picks and that's okay. But like for the Celtics, and we always talked about it, it always had to be a win now move. We're trying to win a championship now. And Paul George was good last season. He wasn't Paul George, but he was good. And I think now you're putting him in a situation where it's just like, man, this is brutal. He's in a lose situation because ain't nobody in Boston going to like him because every time they see him, they're going to realize they traded Jaylen Brown for him. So every bad game he has, that's going to get thrown in his face. Like this is a lose-lose situation. And I got to say, Brad Stevens has made mistakes. This will, as of right now, be his biggest mistake.
Yeah, so a few things here. First is, like you said, Jaylen Brown was clearly just done with being in Boston. And clearly the Celtics really, really wanted to trade him too. It's not just one side that was done with the other. It seems like the Celtics were out on the Jaylen Brown business too. If this is all that they were like, if they were willing to accept this little return in exchange for him. Second thing is there doesn't appear to have been as big a market for him as we might have thought, given that he just finished sixth in MVP voting and was named second team All NBA. That $60+ million a year that he's making over the next few years was apparently far too much for teams to swallow, which is pretty crazy. But when you are more realistically, he's a top 15 or 20 player in the NBA than a top 5 to 8 player in the NBA. And if you're not one of those guys that can lead your team to a title on your own, then I guess teams just don't want to pay you $60 million under the current collective bargaining agreement, And then, like you said, Paul George is definitely in a lose-lose situation going to Boston because, for the exact reasons you said, he's not Jaylen Brown, and they're going to remember that this was the trade for, ever. But he was pretty good last season, especially when he came back from the performance-enhancing drugs suspension. Quite coincidentally, he looked refreshed after all that time off from taking performance-enhancing drugs. He outplayed Jaylen Brown in that first-round series, and he was one of Philly's better players in the second-round series where they got their asses kicked by the Knicks. So they got that going for him, I guess. But, I mean, PG is, 35, 36 years old. He's clearly like a half a decade at least older than Jaylen Brown. He makes almost as much money as Jaylen Brown. He's not on the court as often as Jaylen Brown. Paul George is no guarantee to play for as many games as the Celtics want him to. They have gone in today on some really injury-prone players in Paul George and Mitchell Robinson, and they've still got to deal with the fallout from Jason Tatum's Achilles surgery. We don't know if he's going to be the picture of health this year or throughout the rest of his career. This is all of a sudden a team that's very rickety.
I don't really obviously we both hate this trade, right? For Boston. I think that's kind of the obvious side of it, right? Am I putting words in your mouth by saying hate, or are you?
I don't think you're putting words in my mouth. I certainly don't like it. We'll see what the pick value becomes. The first round pick next year is very complicated. I'm reading this from Keith Smith, who is one of the best cap guys out there from Spotrac. He said that basically if Philadelphia's pick lands in 1 to 8 in 2028, Boston's probably going to get it. But if that pick is 9 to 30, it's already headed out from the Sixers in a complicated swap that involves multiple teams. So if the pick lands 9 to 30, then Boston could get the most favorable of its own pick and the Clippers pick that Philadelphia owns, with the less favorable pick staying with the Sixers. Keith thinks that's how it works out, but obviously we'll get the final details whenever the trade gets finalized, which I presume will be July 6th or somewhere around there. but the 2031 pick could potentially be pretty valuable, I guess, because that goes beyond the expiration of Jalen's deal.
I mean,
And obviously Joel Embiid, but yeah.
I have to believe Boston, there has to be another move. Maybe they're flipping these picks. Maybe they're getting Trey Murphy out of this. But I just don't understand. Honestly, again, I'm going to keep going to it. I do not understand. You weren't willing to give up your young guys for Giannis, and you didn't give up your kudos. You still didn't give up your young guys, but you went and got a worse player and trading your best asset. Like, the market had to have been that bad and that down on Jaylen Brown that it was Paul George. A contract with, let's just be honest, like, pretty sure we all felt was somewhat untradeable, which then also goes to this, and this being my belief that I should always have, and I should always remember this rule: every contract's tradable. We have to stop with the idea of something's an untradeable contract, because it seems every contract's tradable, because I would have never in a million years. And by the way, you traded him within your division, within your conference, to a rival knocked you out in the playoffs. Like, I just don't fully understand the concept of this. Like, I'm really kind of perplexed. Part of this podcast is therapy for us, Jared. Like, I just to talk through this. Like, I don't even know how much sound thoughts I have. Like, listen, Paul George as a player, if he's back to being Paul George, like, that's really good. But like, that is so unlikely at this point. And you talked about the injuries and how often he plays and things. Like, I don't even know how you pull this off. Like, there has to be more from I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what else to say right now, Jared.
I'm definitely flabbergasted too. Like you said, Paul George does not play very often. He's played 78 games over the last 2 seasons, which is only 4 more than he played in what was coincidentally a contract year during the 2023-24 season.
Funny how that works.
He was not good at all in 2024-25. His shooting fell off. His defense fell off. He didn't play all that many minutes this past season. He only played 31 a game, which is considerably down from his heights when he was playing 34, 35, 36 minutes a game. He was the third option, obviously, in Philadelphia. He's probably going to have to step up and be more of an offensive option again in Boston, unless, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard are taking on even larger slices of the offense than they did last year, because obviously Jaylen Brown is gone now.
I just want to say, like, the effort that Tatum's going to have to exert next year.
Yeah.
Really, like, and to be honest, they never really talked about why he missed game 7. With the injury. I know it was kind of but it's like, he's still on the road to recovery from an Achilles. If you're the rest of the Eastern Conference, you're just looking at that going, like, that's one less team. We just talked about how good the Eastern Conference is, and I know it's dangerous considering how we kind of counted Boston out last year. But now it's like, I just look at it going, like, they're going to be good. Like, but you have
to be very good.
But you're going to have to wonder what you get out of Tatum, still coming off the Achilles. He didn't even finish the playoff series. You're going to have to wonder what you're getting from Paul George. You have to hope. We both like the Mitchell Robinson signing, thought it was great, thought it was smart, but we do acknowledge that there is injury concerns. Like, man, like, the pressure you're putting on these guys now at this point. Like, I don't know how you can really pull all this stuff off now. Like, I have serious concerns, unless they're flipping picks for, like, Trey Murphy or something, or pulling a rabbit out of the hat here that we don't see, or that we're going to find out tomorrow or something. Like, I just don't know what they're doing, man.
It is, like I said earlier, a very rickety team. Between, obviously, Tatum will have to deal with some injury issues, and we don't know if or when he'll be fully healthy, or if he'll deal with issues throughout the rest of his career. him playing all of those minutes right away, coming off of the Achilles injury, was probably pretty short-sighted. And like it seemed very clear that he had some sort of calf issue in the playoff series. I know that they said it was I can't remember exactly what that, like knee soreness or something along those lines, or that they said he was out with for game 7, but it seemed pretty clear that it was a calf injury. We saw him grabbing at the calf on the bench in the previous game. So you got to deal with that. You got to deal with George's persistent injury issues. You got to deal with Mitchell Robinson's persistent injury issues. Are any of these guys going to play back-to-backs at any point during the year? What does your team look like when those guys are not on the court? Because they're 3 really, really important players at this point. Like, how many games are you even going to have Tatum and Paul George together out there? You know?
Yeah, I there's just so many questions. So let's just kind of just real quickly sort of just game out their starting lineup. Obviously, Tatum, George. I think Robinson's going to start. But it's either Robinson or Kata. One or the other. Derek White. Who's the 5th starter?
Baylor Shireman, maybe? Hugo Gonzalez, maybe?
I mean, like, okay, so now it comes down to that. It's just so okay. And then off the bench, Peyton Pritchard. Like, there's still a good team, folks. Like, there's still a good team. But it's just like the concerns you have now in terms of durability are so much higher and so much worrisome with what you have. It's going to be hard, man. And listen, man, Paul George, he has a tendency to disappear in playoff series. Just go to the New York one, right? Like, there's a level of, when you're looking at, like, this team can't beat New York. I don't have them beating New York. I think they're going to have a hard time with teams like Indiana that are just going to run up and down the court, and play fast. I think Toronto's better than them. Like, this is a wild trade. The other thing that's wild to me, too, about this is Jaylen Brown went for, less, I feel like, than Walker Kessler, less than what I feel like Kawhi went for, and he's a better player than those two guys.
Is he better than Kawhi? I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kawhi's 36. He's younger. He's going to have a longer run. It's comparable with Kawhi in that sense. Like, if you count durability and reliability, Jaylen's going to play almost nightly. Right? Yeah. Like, I think I think that's where you have to sort of look at it. Like, I just think they're at least, maybe I overspoke with saying better than Kawhi, but they're at least on a similar plane, and one's significantly younger.
I think because of the age and because of the availability, you could say they're on a similar-ish plane, but I think Kawhi is a pretty significantly, or a pretty clear, no, I don't know about significantly, but a pretty clearly better player when they're both actually on the court.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to just tell you now, he beat the shit out of Kawhi when they were here in LA. And it was when the Clippers were rolling and he dropped 50 something. And I remember it pretty clearly. Like, so just easy on that, because I think it's more level than you think.
It's fair enough.
And that was when the Clippers were on that like run and Kawhi looked unstoppable. So, and they stopped him. So I think I just think when you look at it for Boston, though, like, the value was that low for him. Really? Like, that's where I'm more astonished. Like, does the league not value him that much?
Maybe the league thinks that he's the 7th best player on a team.
Oh God, the analytics. Oh God, the analytics team. Oh man. All right, let's take a quick break, and then let's just talk about it on Philly's end before we wrap up, and then we'll call it a day and get ready for the next trade, and hopefully I'll try to move some more stuff into my my new place. We are back, folks. Again, emergency podcast. Alarms going and blaring. I feel like that's more of a joyous sound, though. Like, bow, 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 but I think more of like a wow. This is too much. We're going into dumb shit now.
I could tell them to turn the sirens back on that were on earlier.
That you had going, right? Let's look at it from Philly side, because for the Sixers, this is a no-brainer deal, right? Even, I mean, like, you got younger, you got better, more athletic. You have a legitimate, like, when you look at their core, forget about Embiid for a moment. Just Maxey, Edgecombe, and Brown. Like, I'm ready to roll with those three. And then you add Embiid to the mix, where they don't even have to be as reliant on Embiid as they were before. So everything you get from him is gravy. Like, I kind of just like the way they are well set up. This is a big move for Mike Gansey.
Yeah, I love it too. You would imagine they're going to start those four guys, and I guess Dean Wade, especially after Kelly Oubre left in free agency for a deal with the Pacers, which I thought, like, I don't know. I think I'd rather have Kelly Oubre for 2 years and $17 million and Dean Wade for 4 years and $39 million. But Mike Gansey basically discovered Dean Wade in Cleveland on a 2-way deal. So that was obviously something that they find preferable. It does sort of move Embiid even further down the pecking order, like you said, and everything you get from him is gravy. The Maxey, Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown trio is a really, really good one, and I think it fits really well together. You got shooting, you got speed, you got off the dribble capabilities, you got shooting from the outside, you got shooting from the mid range. You can get to the basket. Like, you've got at least two guys that can play defense in Edgecombe and Brown. Both of them can guard down the positional spectrum. I think Brown can guard up the positional spectrum too, in the same way that Paul George did. Like, you can use Jaylen Brown and Dean Wade sort of interchangeably defensively and figure out which guy you want to use on the better forward matchup, which guy you want to use on the smaller guy, which guy you want to use on the bigger guy. You can use Edgecombe to pressure ball handlers like he did occasionally on Jalen Brunson in the second round of the playoffs and things like that. Like, I really like the way this all fits together for them. I like even more that they kept the Clippers picks that they had in their coffers. They sent out their own picks instead.
Yeah, I mean, they're better. I mean, smart moves from where they're at and where they're going to be kind of situated and set up. Like, God, man, like, this is really such an insane trade to me for Boston. I'm sorry, but, like, looking at it from Philly's side of it, just looking at it like when you're Boston and you're saying we're handing this to, by the way, an incredibly motivated Jaylen Brown now. If he wasn't motivated before, like, the level of respect. Now, let's be honest. Philly's first game in Boston, Christmas Day, by the way, folks, would be my bet, is going to be absolutely out of control absurd. So I think that's going to be one to kind of be ready for. I don't know what else to say. Like, for Philly, I just love it. It is a slam dunk for them. I love everything that they have. We had a great run with Edgecombe this season. Maxey leveling up to being that guy. And now he has the perfect running mate. You have, in terms of, like, you have what you thought you were getting from Paul George, you now get in Jaylen Brown, and a better version of that, I think. And I think that's pretty obvious. Like,
I think the version of Paul George that was the player he was in 23-24, I think is a better fit for the Sixers than Jaylen Brown is, just because of the shooting and the better on-ball defense, the better off-ball defense. But certainly the player that Jaylen Brown is now is a lot better and better fit than the player Paul George is now.
But I actually don't agree with you on that, with the 23-24 fit. Like, I think I'd rather have Jaylen Brown now than 23-24 Paul George. I just think there's a level of, like, toughness from Brown that I didn't see in PG, and I haven't seen in him in a very long time. In a weird, let me put it to you this way: like, 23-24 Paul George couldn't do what Jaylen Brown did this season with this Celtics team.
He doesn't need to, though, or he didn't need to on this Philly team.
Yeah, but, like, I'm even the best version of Paul George, I think I still take Jaylen Brown. Like, that's my viewpoint, really. And I think for me, they just got so significantly better, they have to round out the rest of their roster.
Yeah, there are depth concerns here, but that was already true before they did this trade.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So it's not like, so they need to figure out how to kind of fill out the rest of the roster and how to kind of build it all out. But sorry, folks, I know I'm kind of like stuttering because it's only been like an hour with this news where I look at it for them, like they can run so many things. I think Nick Nurse has got to be like, I'm not the biggest Nick Nurse fan, but he has to be just skipping in his office right now with giddiness of just like, I get to do this, I can run this stuff. And then when all else fails, we can throw it to Embiid in the post. The one thing I do find hilarious was we're not far removed from Brown on his own Twitch stream, crushing Embiid for flopping.
Oh, right.
So that's going to be a little bit of a mending offenses moment there where they're going to have to kind of sort that stuff out and figure that out. What else do you have with it with Philly? Because otherwise I'm going to take us into a different.
Just the depth concerns. Like you look at the roster, it's Maxey, Embiid, Brown, Edgecombe, Wade, and then Dominic Barlow, Ariel Porty, Jabari Walker, Justin Edwards, Adem Bona, Johnny Broom, and LeBaron Philon. That's not the best bench in the history of the world. They lost Oubre, they lost Grimes. Presumably they're losing Drummond, but replacing him with Porty. Trendon Watford is still out there in unrestricted free agency too. We'll see what else they do, but they got to fill out the roster. They've got on Spotrac, it's got them with 13.6 million under the first apron with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 with 2 roster spots or potentially up to 2 or 3 roster spots to fill. And they are going to be hard capped at the first apron unless they send out more money in this trade than just Paul George, because Jaylen Brown makes more than Paul George.
Right.
So, who knows? It could turn into a multi-team deal depending on how things get executed, and then they might not be hard capped at the first apron. But as of now, if they just execute this as a 1-for-1 transaction, then they have around $13.5 million in space to fill out the rest of the roster, and they need to get probably 2 rotation players.
So let's take a look, just going through the Eastern Conference right now. By the way, this puts even more pressure on Detroit, which we talked about in our earlier podcast today of like, you better freaking do something. It better be more than Kevin Huerter and Isaiah Joe right now, because you need more than what you have. But just looking at it this way, the top 10 in the Eastern Conference, starting from the bottom, 10 was Miami, 9 Charlotte, 8 Orlando, 7 Philly, 6 Atlanta, 5 Toronto, 4 Cleveland, 3 New York, 2 Boston, 1 Detroit. Reorder that for me, just assuming with what you have. I'm being unfair, folks. I'm being incredibly unfair. I've just put Jared in a tough spot. I'll start with where I think some of these teams go. And by the way, Indiana's way on the bottom. Indiana's going to jump up into the at least the top 10. So somebody's dropping out of the top 10. Most likely to me is going to be Charlotte to drop out of the top 10 with a little bit with the step back with the LaMelo trade and things like that. To me, that's easy call. They're going to drop out of the top 10. Do you agree with me on that with Indiana coming up?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. The plan was Philly, Orlando, Charlotte, Miami. We've already said Charlotte out. Is Miami likely to be a play-in team, you think?
I think they're in like the
7 to 6, like on the
yeah, they're probably like we got to see what happens with the rest of those roster spots. I think that's also a team that's going to have much more playoff equity than it does regular season ceiling because Giannis is going to miss a bunch of time during the regular season ceiling. They're probably going to try to get themselves into like the 5 to 6 range, obviously, rather than the 7 to 10 range. Like I would say somewhere between like 5 and 8 for them.
Okay. So in possible play-in, possible ceilings 5. Cool.
I mean,
Orlando.
the ceiling is higher if Giannis plays 75 games. I just don't think that's going to happen.
And folks, don't anybody hold us to this. We're literally making this prediction July, or not even a prediction. We're just talking through this in July 1 as this exercise. This is really, and it was probably unfair of me to throw this at Jared last second. Sorry, Jared, I'm being mean. All right, Orlando at 8. I still think they're more likely a play-in team.
Yeah.
Than I we'll see. I like Sweeney. Let's see what they do as a staff and things like that. But the big signing so far was Vooch. Great. But to me, that's going to be they're still a playing team. Philly's no longer a playing team to me. I expect them to be in the top 6.
You would think.
Assuming everything goes right. Atlanta, I could see dropping into the play-in just because everybody around them is getting better. And they're still pretty young with where they're at. They only got the 6 seed by 1 game ahead of Philly. And I think Philly will be better than the 45 wins they had last season.
And it took that big run at the end of the season for the Hawks to be able to get out of the play-in. And that was against, shall we say, inferior competition.
Teams with a different level of motivation, which will also be different next year because of the relegation possibilities. Toronto finished 5, 46 wins. I think that's at least a 50-win team just on paper right now. Adding Kawhi, I think that's a team that finishes somewhere 5 or better. But I don't think they drop below 5.
I think that's also a team that has more postseason equity than regular season ceiling. But if Kawhi plays 60 games, I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah. Cleveland, up in the air. We'll see what happens. We know they're in the running for LeBron, in that little rat race. And obviously, if they get LeBron and seeing how that kind of works itself out, that might be interesting. New York, obviously 3. I don't see them dropping off that much, even with losing Robinson and having questions as a backup big. I saw Kevon Looney might be the answer there for the backup big.
Answer.
Yeah. Answer. And for those that aren't watching on YouTube, he gave us the quote unquote signal there. So, but I still think top 3 at least for the Knicks. I don't think they
think so,
off.
especially given what they unlocked throughout the playoffs. We know it's a really good team with a really high ceiling. I would be surprised, and they didn't even play to their potential during the regular season this year, and they still landed in the top 3. I would be pretty surprised if they were falling down the standing next year, even without Mitchell Robinson.
So the next ones are Boston and Detroit, and I think both of those teams will drop off.
I think so.
I don't think either of them will drop off to the point they're playing, unless it's really an issue of injuries and things like that. Maybe Boston more likely, just because we don't know what's going to happen with Tatum's recovery. We don't know what's going to happen with just Paul George in general, and then Mitchell Robinson. So it's like you do have to wonder that to one degree, but Boston is going to drop off. I think if they get 60, 65 games together, they're a top 6 team in the East. Detroit's definitely dropping to me. I think the talent around them, everybody's getting better, and they're just kind of looking around.
I think that the Pistons could see a similar drop off to what the Cavs had last year, where they just kind of played above their heads during the regular season anyway. And now the team coming back may not be quite as talented as it was this past year. And we'll see what happens with Jaylen Brown. We still have no idea what's going on there. There aren't really that many outside shooters for him anymore.
Lost Tobias Harris to San Antonio.
Yeah, they did replace him with John Collins, though.
Yeah, I'm not a big Harris fan, but I still would probably rather Harris than Collins. But I think there's a level of I don't know, man. This is going to be. This league is amazing. This has been probably the most fun offseason we've had in a little bit, of just full on boom, boom.
You know what? The Knicks won the title, and the entire rest of the league went insane.
Yeah, pretty much. If the Knicks could do it, everybody else felt like they could do it. I think that's just a great way to end it there, Jared. I also love that you're wearing a New York hat while I'm wearing an LA hat.
I wasn't wearing it on the earlier podcast, but now the teams are reacting to the Knicks.
You felt like you needed to bust it out.
Well, that and I took a shower earlier, so I'm wearing a different shirt.
There you go. Yes. All right. I don't. Anything else you want to touch on here on the either part of the trade or anything that happened today that you felt like from when we podcasted 6-7 hours ago?
I just really wonder what else Boston might be up to other than this. Like, I don't know if Paul George is getting rerouted. Like, that would be
No, I don't think
unusual.
I don't think that's happening. I think if anything, maybe at some points they flip these picks for something else, but I don't think there's a move up their sleeve right now that's in the works. Like maybe it'll be down the road, maybe it'll be later in the summer, but like I don't know if there is. And again, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of movement on the Trey Murphy side, which is the person everybody's been connected to with that. And I don't know really where we're at with that stuff, but like I don't know, man. Like this is just insane. It was a bad trade. That's my answer.
Yeah, but I mean, Boston's taken a pretty significant step back, I would think. Philly's taken a pretty significant step forward. The East is going to be absolutely bonkers. So let me ask you this, actually, now that since I brought them up earlier. Who should the Knicks play on ring night? Philly, Toronto, Boston, Miami, somebody else?
God. I mean, it's probably going to be Cleveland because that's the team that they faced in the conference finals on a ring night.
You can't do that, though. Not with all these teams loading up.
I mean, I don't. But I mean, look, man. If they get LeBron, it'll be that. Whoever gets LeBron will be. If LeBron goes to the Eastern Conference, that'll be who the Knicks play on game one. It's probably, if I had to guess, and if you're going to make sure I don't take Cleveland, it's either Boston or Miami to me.
You don't think it could be Philly?
Or Philly.
They did beat Philly in the second round.
Yeah, it could be Philly. Philly's actually a good call. It's probably Philly.
Embiid back in New York where everybody hates him. Maxey on the big stage with Jaylen Brown in his first game with the Sixers.
But I also think the Giannis angle, Giannis's first game with Miami might be something.
Yeah,
that'll be fun. I guess we should save that conversation. Who do they get on opening night? So let's see what the rest of offseason looks like, or the rest of free agency looks like. But I will bet it now. Jaylen Brown returns to Boston on Christmas Day. I will bet that now.
I would not be surprised at all.
I don't bet. I don't recommend anybody use any of those prediction model things or whatever. But that might be one that's like, might want to bet that one.
Might want to bet that one. I don't bet either, but that seems like a pretty solid bet to me.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Thank you, folks, for listening to the emergency Double Dribble podcast today.
See y'all again.